August 1920, Poland stands on the brink of destruction. The mighty Red Army marches west, seemingly unstoppable, and within days, Warsaw, the heart of Poland, will fall. This is not just another war. It's a fight for the survival of a nation, and the fate of Europe hangs in the balance. What happens next will be remembered as one of the greatest military upsets in history. Welcome to the Battle of Warsaw, also known as the Miracle on the Vistula. But how did Poland get here? How did this newly reborn nation, barely 2 years old, find itself standing alone against the Bolshevik juggernaut? Chapter 1: Background. After the devastation of World War I, Poland regained its independence, having been wiped off the map for over a century. But the joy of freedom was short-lived. As Bolshevik forces emerged victorious in the Russian Civil War, Lenin and the Soviet leadership turned their eyes westward. To them, Poland was not just a neighbor, it was the gateway to Europe. If it could bring communism to Poland, it could march straight into Germany and beyond, turning Europe red. The revolution was to be carried forward on the bayonets of the Red Army. And at the center of their sights, Warsaw. Poland, on the other hand, was just finding its feet. The country was still reeling from over a century of partitions by Russia, Germany, and Austria. Under the leadership of Józef Piłsudski, Poland sought to secure its eastern borders by launching an offensive into Ukraine. But in the summer of 1920, the tables turned dramatically. Chapter 2: The Soviet Advance. The Red Army's counteroffensive was swift and brutal. By mid-1920, the Soviet forces, led by Mikhail Tukhachevsky, had driven the Poles back. City after city fell, and the Polish army was in full retreat. Foreign observers predicted that Poland was on the verge of collapse. Many believed that the fall of Warsaw was inevitable. The Soviet plan was clear. They would encircle Warsaw, cut off its supply lines, and crush the remaining Polish resistance. With 24 divisions under his command, Tukhachevsky was confident of a swift victory. But in war, nothing is certain. Chapter 3: Pilsudski's Daring Plan. Józef Piłsudski, the mastermind of Poland's military strategy, knew that something had to change. Warsaw was days away from being overrun, and desperation was in the air. But in this moment of crisis, Pilsudski came up with a bold and risky plan. His idea was to allow the Soviet forces to press close to Warsaw, then strike them from an unexpected direction, south of the city, along the Vistula River. It was a gamble, and even some of his own commanders thought it was madness. But it was Poland's only chance. Chapter 4: The Battle Begins. On August 12, 1920, the battle for Warsaw began. The Red Army launched a massive frontal assault on the Polish defenses. In fierce fighting, the Soviets captured the town of Radzymin, just 23 kilometers from Warsaw. It seemed that victory was within their grasp. But the Poles were not giving up. Despite being outnumbered and outgunned, the Polish army, bolstered by volunteers and civilians, held their ground. And then, on August 16th, Pilsudski's counteroffensive was unleashed. Chapter 5: The Turning Point. The Polish forces struck with speed and precision, catching the Soviets by surprise. Pilsudski's troops advanced rapidly, cutting through the Soviet lines and severing their communication and supply routes. The Soviet commanders were thrown into confusion, and the Red Army began to falter. The miracle on the Vistula was unfolding. Within days, the Polish forces had pushed the Soviets back over 150 kilometers. The Red Army was in full retreat. Chapter 6: Aftermath and Legacy. The victory at Warsaw was total. Soviet casualties were staggering. Tens of thousands dead, wounded, and captured. The Red Army had been dealt a crippling blow, and Lenin himself called it an enormous defeat. Poland had not only saved itself, but had also halted the spread of communism into Western Europe. In the months that followed, several more Polish victories led to a peace treaty with Soviet Russia, securing Poland's eastern frontiers until 1939. The Battle of Warsaw was not just a military victory, it was a defining moment in Polish history, one that ensured the survival of the nation for years to come. But beyond the military triumph, the Battle of Warsaw became a symbol of hope. It showed that even when the odds are stacked against you, courage, strategy, and determination can change the course of history. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more incredible stories from history. Until next time, remember, history is not just about the past. It's about understanding who we are today.